You're still with The Perspective, and we are still speaking with Glen Hulley from Project Karma. Glen, earlier you mentioned about how the initiative, the movement, then caught wind with the government and accepted and started to put into motion, not just quite recently. Congratulations for getting that, that distance, because government's involvement in this kind of issue to protect children from sexual offenders, from pedophiles, are really important. And then you mentioned Bali also, you mentioned Indonesia. How did it happen? What brought you here, and what are the activities that Project Karma currently are doing here in Bali?
Sure. My previous experience working with a number of organisations before starting Project Karma, we had some investigations in Bali. Yeah. We also had some in Batam and in Lombok. Wow. So I became quite familiar with the proliferation of these offences in Indonesia. But there's a particular affiliation between Australia and Bali. Yeah. We have over 1 million Australians visit the island every year. And when the initial catalyst for me was seeing an article that came out that I referred to before, where the Australian Federal Police spoke of Bali being the #1 destination for child sex offenders from Australia. And that coupled with the statistics that I had leaked to me from the Australian Sex Offender Register, that was enough for me to decide to go to Bali and do some research myself. And I spent 18 months visiting the country on and off regularly, living with the local people, learning the local culture, religion, and social order structure, in order to get a feel for how widely spread these problems were. The amount of foreigners, not just Australians, that have prior convictions for child sex offending, that are going to that place, is creating a market. And that market's being supplied by local people and more often in local crime syndicates. And that then leads to the trafficking of children. We know of evidence of children being trafficked in through Padang Bay from islands like Sumba and Flores and Lombok. And these children are brought across on the ferries.
The surrounding islands, right?
Yeah,
it's
correct.
Farther east, yeah.
Yeah, correct. And so people are doing this because there's money to be made. And this is the true nature, and unfortunate that people don't want to see, don't want to hear about, because it's a confronting topic that children are being taken away from their families, either forcefully or willingly. These families are offered money by criminal syndicates. Sometimes they'll be offered to have a loan if they want to start a business or something, and they'll be asked to put a child up as collateral. In other cases, parents are selling their children to these organisations, and so they then move these children in to child prostitution because there's a market for it and there's money to it.
How old are these children again? Just to
the youngest I've encountered in my investigations is 3 years old.
3 years old?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So we're talking that this is, I know it's hard for people to fathom, but these are collateral for these organisations. There is a market there. There is human beings that are prepared to have sexual intercourse with a child that is 3 years old. And I know most of us struggle with that concept, but that is a reality. And it's enough of an industry, it's enough of a market, that the latest data that's come out is saying that it's worth $36.6 billion a year.
Wow.
It's rivaling the drug trade in Southeast Asia.
Wow.
And the model is very low overheads, very easy to come by your stock, your collateral, which we would call children, but they're running this as a business. There is no emotion, there is no feelings.
They're just,
And these children are just treated as objects like cattle, and they are just trafficked between location to location to fulfil a market. But what is even more alarming is that the current data suggests that only about 15% of the child sexual offences that are occurring in Bali and other areas of Southeast Asia are for foreigners that are coming to the country. Around 85% of the crimes being committed against children, sexual crimes against children, are being committed by local people. And this is what Indonesia, we want Indonesia to recognise this fact. This isn't my organisation claiming these facts. These are published facts from research and data that's been available online and available to governments. There is a real problem here in Indonesia. They're not alone. There's many countries in Southeast Asia where this is a problem. In culture, it goes back generations where children are being sexually abused for many different reasons, but a lot of it comes down to culture.
Yeah. So it is also, on the society's shoulders to acknowledge and actually reach out into the issues. And what were the activities in Bali? A little bit you shared earlier about socialization and reaching out. Could you share more with us about it?
Sure. I developed the Sentinel model to try and work within social order structure, work within the culture of the countries that we plan to bring the model to. We've done a lot of research on what we would call hotspots for these types of crimes. Every country has these problems. We're not saying that Southeast Asia is alone in having these problems. Yep. However, on ratio, there is a higher ratio of proliferation of these crimes than there is in other parts of the world. And we find that what we call hotspots, we've had to go in and do the research and learn about the culture, the political environment, the social order structure. And so it took a lot of time. Bali is quite a complex social order structure, breaking down from regencies into desas, into banjars. And so what we've done is we've chosen an area of a regency called Karangasem. And in that regency, we've decided to work with 6 different Kepala Desa, and they have given blessing for this project. And so what we're doing is we've tailored this model to work within their community. So we are creating investigation teams that will assist the police. We have an intelligence network in Bali, and we have many reports of these types of crimes. And we currently have investigations running now, where we're putting bodies of evidence together. And we're training local people, which is part of their local security force within a banjar. So you have your Pecalang and your Jagabaya and your Linmas and Hansip. And from the Kepala Desa, they provide these people to us to train, and they become part of our investigation teams, and then work closely with the police. We now have agreements with Polsek and with Polres in Indonesia, in Bali. And we're in discussions now with Polda about becoming an officially sanctioned support agency for the law enforcement in Bali. And so we then hand that evidence over to the police, and then the idea of the model is to work closely with the police to assist them in conducting an official investigation and leading to arrests and rescuing of children. And then we provide a network of support services and rehabilitation for the children that have been rescued. But what we're doing in the local communities is more of we want to focus on a proactive side here. We want to try and get to this problem before the children are harmed. So we're working closely with community leaders and creating community awareness groups, and then going into the villages and bringing awareness and education to the village people.
Very important indeed.
And going into the schools. And we want to deliver an education package to all the students to let them know that, because there is no education on this. People don't want to talk about this, and this is the problem. So we want to bring education to these students and inform them that it's not okay, and if something does happen to you, this is what you can do about it. And then you can have confidence that something will get done about it and you will be looked after. Because that's the message we need to get across. As I said right at the start of our interview, we know that only about 1 in 5 of these crimes are being reported. And when you consider how many reports there are, we know from the data there's at least 70,000 children that are being sexually abused every day in Indonesia.
All right. We need to take another break from that, and we'll come back in the next segment. Stay with us on The Perspective.